Vayibimei Achashverosh, oh Achashverosh, Vayibimei Achashverosh, oh Achashverosh, HaMelech Meyedo V'Yadosh, HaMelech Meyedo V'Yadosh, Sheva V'Yasrim U'Meya Medina, Sheva V'Yasrim U'Meya Medina, Vayibimei Achashverosh, oh Achashverosh, Vayibimei Achashverosh, oh Achashverosh, HaMelech Meyedo V'Yadosh, HaMelech Meyedo V'Yadosh, Sheva V'Yasrim U'Meya Sheva V'Yasrim U'Meya Medina. Which one do you want to go? Chag Borim, Chag Gadol Masecha Rashanim Zmirot Berikudim. Hamanarisha Rash Rash Rash, Hamanarisha Rash Rash Rash, Hamanarisha Rash Rash Rash, Parashani. Aniporim Sameach U'Dabeach, Aniporim Sameach U'Dabeach. Lai lai la 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 Apchi, lai lai la Chaim. Chevra, this is a day of the year when the joy is unbridled, when the joy has no bounds. It's boundless. The joy and the blessings that Hashem pours on each and every one of us on a day like today is unprecedented. And it's a time for us to grab this opportunity, not to waste it. It's like sometimes you give a child a diamond and they don't know it's a diamond and they throw it down to the floor. We should know how to treat Purim, the diamond it is. And I want to tell you a couple of Torah thoughts before we go back to reading Megillah twice again. We had Megillah reading last night twice. We had Megillah reading this morning twice, and Torah reading. Gave out hundreds of packages, went all over. We have 2 more Megillah readings and another festive meal, all celebration in a safe way for COVID. But I want to tell you 2 thoughts. Monday, I had to drive to New York. I drove in and out in the day. I left 8 a.m. and I came back at 1 a.m., 13 hours later. On the way back, I said, I want to make sure I'm not sleeping and I'm not distracted. So I turned on a Farbrengen, a gathering from the Lubavitcher Rebbe from 1973, and I listened to it. And I saw 2 beautiful thoughts there in the Megillah that I want to share with you. The first thought is, the Rebbe says when you read the beginning of the Megillah, and we read about Achashverosh's grand party. He had 2 parties. One was 180 days and had everything you wanted. The luxurious style of it was better than you could ever imagine. Better than you get in the best first class suite on the best airline you'll get. And it goes into the details. And then he had a 7-day for the ordinary people, first 180-day for all the sophisticated and aristocrats. And the Torah tells us what kind of bed there was, what kind of linen there was, what kind of goblets there was, everything. What kind of food, what kind of wine, and how limitless it was. And the Rebbe says, why the details? Why can't the Megillah just start with a story with Achashverosh being drunk and calling for Vashti? What do we have to know all these details? And the Rebbe says something very powerful. The Torah is teaching us a powerful lesson that we can learn even from Achashverosh. And the lesson and the message is like this, that when it comes to being able to do good and being able to do something spiritual and powerful, we shouldn't limit ourselves. And we shouldn't suffice with something that's half. So, we should, we should make sure to do the best that we could. And the Rebbe gives an example. If you're able to study for an hour, and you study for 2 hours, that's amazing. But if you're able to study or to do kindness for 12 hours and you only do it for 2 hours, then Achashverosh is calling and telling you, look how amazing and how empowered you have to be. Look how his feast was. He didn't miss a detail. And the same is true in our service of Hashem. That's the first thought. And the second thought, which I think connects very much to the days we live in today, L'chaim, I spoke too much. L'chaim. Not bad. The second thought is like this. In the Megillah, there's 4 verses we all read out loud, even if we're not reading the Megillah. One of those verses is Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira Ushmo Mordechai Ben Yair Ben Shmini Ben Kish Ish Yemini. There was a Jew in the town Shushan Habira, the grand Shushan. And then it goes on to give us Mordechai's lineage. And the Rebbe says that we never find such a thing where it says Ish Yehudi. There was a man. We never see this expression. Why doesn't it just tell us Mordechai was in Shushan? And the Rebbe says a very beautiful answer. He says there's many Jews. They're Jewish in their home, in their bedroom, in their kitchen. They put on a yarmulke, they make kiddush. Maybe they'll do more spiritual things, but when they go outside, nah. All right, some Jews, when they go to shul, they'll put a kiva, or when they go to the kosher grocery store for bar mitzvah. But when it comes to Shushan Habira, the capital, when they go to Washington, D.C., when they're roaming the halls of Fifth Avenue and all the successful businesses, you can't see their Judaism. You can't know they're Jewish. Comes the Megillah and tells us about Mordechai. Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira. Mordechai was the type of Jew that when he went to Shushan, when he roamed the halls of Achashverosh's palace and his empire, you knew first he was a Jew. Only later did you know Mordechai, what his name was, the details of who he was. But the most important thing you knew is Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira. Mordechai wore his Judaism proud on his sleeve when he was in Shushan, when he was in the Fifth Avenue, when he was at Newbury Street, when he walked in Coolidge Corner, but not only in Coolidge Corner, but even when he went to Fenway or when he went to Washington or when he went to Dubai, he wore his Judaism wherever he was. And that's the message we learn from Mordechai. And one other verse, by the way, that we say loud. We say it also in Havdalah. Every Saturday night, to the Jewish people, there was light. And there was joy. And there was festivities. And there was the Ikar. And there was extra pride. And we say it every single Saturday night. And we also say it in the Megillah. It speaks about how the Jews were after the victory. And the Gemara tells us something fascinating. And although it says just like Udim Haita or Abasimcha Vesasam Ikar, you might think it's just simple. But why do we say it every Saturday? And you know why? Because Orah goes on the Torah. The Simcha goes on Shabbos. Visasan goes on Brit Milah. And Bikar goes on Tefillin. That the Jewish people finally were reestablished with their celebrating Shabbos and with their celebrating the holidays and with having a Brit Milah and with learning Torah and with rapping Tefillin. But the question arises, didn't the Jews have that the whole time? Mordechai was doing that. So what does it mean that only after the Megillah did you have Layodim Ha'isayna V'simcha V'sasam Mikar? And the answer is a very deep and profound one. Yes, the Jews had Torah, and they had Shabbos, and they had Yom Tov, and they had Tefillin, and they had Brit Milah, but they didn't celebrate it properly. They didn't have the joy that they needed within it. But after the miracle of Purim, they recognized that they have to do it with the renewed energy, with the renewed vitality, with the renewed joy and celebration. And that's why we say it every Saturday night too. We ask Hashem that our Torah, that our light, that our joy of Shabbos and festivities and Brit Milah and Tefillin should be done in the right celebration with the right love to Hashem. And the truth is that this year and last year we've had a year of COVID, and Purim has been a little challenging. So we give the blessing that Hashem should give that we should strengthen our joy and our simcha and our connection to Torah and to Judaism should be rejuvenated, should be happier and more celebratory than all. And especially when Shabbos comes, Purim comes into Shabbos, it's called Purim HaMeshulash. Because today we celebrate Purim. In Israel, in Yerushalayim, they would have to celebrate tomorrow. But because it's Shabbos, they can. So they're going to celebrate on Sunday. But they still will be festive on Shabbos. So we have 3 days, Friday, Shabbos, and Sunday. And it becomes a permanence, a chazakah of joy. And may it permeate all our lives. And as we put on the masks last Purim and never took it off,
We should take it off after this Purim, God willing, in a safe way, in a healthy way, and never have to put it back on again. L'chaim.
Hodim Haisayda, Hodim Haisayda, Simcha Bisasai Mikara, Kain, Kain Tielanu, Kain Tielanu, Kain Tielanu, Aida Simcha Bisasai Mikara, L'chaim, good Shabbos, happy Purim, celebrate, don't stop celebrating.